Happy Manga Monday! And today we are talking about the worst manga I read this year. The manga that bored me, that annoyed me, that I would not recommend to anyone. However, I will say my spiel. I will always say it when I do a more negative video. If you like any of these manga, that is okay. That is actually great because you enjoyed your time and I'm happy for you. I'm happy that this manga brought you joy and you enjoyed yourself with it. Like that's the goal of any art media that we, read, watch, listen to, whatever, is to enjoy it. However, it's also all subjective and based on your preferences and your opinions and your everything. So for me, these sucked. I'm not going to be talking about complete series, however, because my last Monday's video, and if you haven't checked it out, please go watch that one next, is a tier list ranking all the complete reads, 3 volumes or more, that I read this year, and you will see what the bottom of the barrel of those ones are in that video. So yeah. So we're only focusing on standalone, like one-shots and first volumes that I read and was incredibly disappointed by. I'm also breaking this into 2 categories. They bored me and they annoyed me. There's slight differences between them. I just felt the need to put them in these 2 categories. And I didn't want to just be all negative on here, so I'll be giving you some recommendations of manga I think is somewhat similar to these, but in my humble opinion, much better. Of course, again, you may disagree and not enjoy a manga that I would recommend, so take my recommendations with a grain or a heaping serving of salt. But hopefully suggestions of some manga you might actually want to check out by the end of this video. At least that's my goal. So yeah, let's get started with the ya bored me category first. These are, I guess, slightly less egregious than the annoyed me category. I just didn't find them interesting. It was actually a bit of a slog to get through some of them. And I don't tend to feel that way about manga. Manga is generally, in general, easy for me. Quick and easy to digest. Like I can read that shit all day, every day, I feel like. And I do most days. But yeah, first up is The Treasure of the King and His Cat. This is a Tokyo Pop kind of BL standalone. I say kind of BL because there was nothing about it that really screamed BL to me. Anyway, this is just about it's kind of like fantasy world in which there have been people suddenly disappearing from the capital. So the young king goes out to investigate, but the criminal ends up getting away and actually casts a spell on him. So to help him out, the king calls on his trusty wizard and other trusted retainers to help him break the curse and catch the criminal. So together they are determined to solve this strange, fluffy mystery full of cats, swords, and magic. Sounds good, right? There's like a mystery, there's some fantasy. Swords implies maybe an action aspect. And there's cats. I mean, luckily, I read this title on Hoopla, so I didn't buy it. Shout out to Hoopla. They do not sponsor me. They never have. And apparently not every library has manga. I found that out. But a lot of people I have told about this app have been able to find manga on it to check out, and it's nice because I have dodged quite a few bullets since downloading it. And this was one of them. It was hard. It was hard to get through this one. I got very tired and just bored. Like, just the characters felt dull and one-dimensional. There was no real romance feeling to it like I wanted, like I thought there would be. The magic kind of was the best part of it, but even that felt kind of on the back burner. And of course I love a good mystery, but wasn't that satisfying, and it also didn't end that satisfyingly. And yeah, altogether it was not for me. But if you do want a Tokyo Pop one-shot that has cats, or at least a cat-related fantasy element to it that I believe is better than this one, you're gonna want to check out The Cat Proposed. This one, I really enjoyed the art. I really enjoyed the story. It's cute, short, simple, to the point, with a little fantasy twist in it. And yeah, I wouldn't say like it's my favorite one shot or anything, but it was an enjoyable time. Next up, we have I believe it's a Korean webtoon manhwa, might be mistaken, called Hyperventilation. So this one has a premise of guys meeting up again, having not seen each other since they were 18 and are now 27, so nearly a decade has passed, and they end up running into each other at their high school reunion, and romantic feelings they had for each other come rushing to the surface. But they have to grapple with if they're the same people that they were back then in high school. I was like, duh, you ain't. Sorry, as a 32-year-old old ass biddy, no, I do not believe I'm the same person that I was as 18, thank God. But you know, I get the stress of will they still feel the same way if they know me now for who I am versus who I was. I get that. Great premise. Quite thin volume, with really gorgeous art. I will say the art was nice. However, the story, not so much. I felt zippo zero chemistry with our main couple. I did not even feel anything during the steamy scenes. I mean, they gave me steamy scenes. I felt nothing. I'm sorry. It just felt so rushed and so unrewarding. And I just kept going, okay, like when will I like care about anybody or anything going on in this one shot? And the answer was, I won't. It left me just feeling nothing. A big fat steaming pile of nothing. So yeah, other than art, this was just a big old snooze fest for me. If you want the gorgeous art that this one does have, even though it isn't a manhwa or a webtoon, so it's not full color, it still has very beautiful black and white art, and with a similar premise of having known each other as children and now being adults or almost adults, like college age or whatever, having time passed and now reuniting. This one shot that came out this year, Lethal Dose of Love, was quite a lot better in my opinion. I don't think it's a perfect one shot, but it gave me a lot more drama, angst, and like I said, beautiful art, and I felt something with the characters. I felt like they really genuinely cared about each other. And even though one was trying desperately to distance himself and not care about the other, clearly feelings were there. And yeah, it was just a lot more like solid and well done and enjoyable. If you just want a little one shot and that premise kind of, you know, is something that intrigues you, then Lethal Dose of Love is my choice for a better option. Next up, we have not a BL. I know, 2 BL in a row. And this is a horror short story collection called Be Very Afraid Kanako Inuki. So I do talk about this video in my one-shot reviews where I read a whole bunch of one-shots, I think in April, and I reviewed them all and what I thought were the bottom of the barrel. And guess what? This one ended up in the bottom of the barrel. And it's because it bored me. Each story gave me nothing. It didn't scare me, didn't creep me out even, didn't even intrigue me. It was just a lot of nothing. I was disappointed, to say the least, because I love me a good horror, although I was worried because it was very thin, so that meant the short stories were very short. However, you never know. It could be really good doses of just creepy, really thought-provoking kind of horror stories or premises or what have you, but not for me. Not for me at all. It was just boring, and I was glad it was so thin because that way the volume was over and I didn't have to read anymore. Oh my god, this sounds so shady. Oh my god, I'm sorry, but seriously, that's how I felt. Oh my god. So obviously I would suggest Junji Ito's collections. I am a Junji Ito horror bitch, I guess, so that's not surprising. I got like a whole tier list ranking them if you want to see which short story collections I personally think are the best ones, because I do think he has some weaker short story collections. He's not perfect, but in general, those ones at least make me feel something other than boredom, whether it's an eeriness or at least to enjoy an interesting concept, but I digress. Some other horror one-shots that I think are great, I talked about actually this October. Got The Walking Cat, another, Ibitsu. I think all of those are really good. They're not necessarily short story collections. The Walking Cat is kind of episodic and follows different people along with this one central cat. So that is kind of the closest, I guess. But if you're just looking for horror, those are all great ones. Again, you can watch this video to hear more of my thoughts and what they're about. And then also my personal favorite collection of one-shots. It's not horror, though some of the stories are creepy concepts, weird and thought-provoking concepts. And that is Moto Hagio's A Drunken Dream. The best short story collection I've ever read. That freaking woman is a genius, in my opinion. Her stories are short, but yet so deep and interesting and memorable. And yeah, I gotta revisit it. It's so good. Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much loved every single one of those short stories. Maybe one or two were a bit weak for me, but like majority wise, loved. And that's pretty hard, I think, to do for short stories because you don't have a lot of time to get a whole story across to someone. So it's an impressive feat. So yeah, those are my plethora of recommendations for that one because I didn't have something exactly like that in mind. So yeah. Last up in the "ya bored me" category, and honestly I put this one at the end because it bored me so much it annoyed me. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but it both bored me and annoyed me, so that's why it's kind of like in between the two categories, or at the end of this bored category. And that is, we're going back to BL for The Genius Puppeteer Loves the Holy Night. Fiercely. Another one-shot that thankfully I read on Hoopla and didn't spend a dime, because like I said, not only did this story bore me, it started to annoy me how uninspired and lifeless it was, and how it was trying to make like a character have like a growth and a development, and yet I did not feel it was earned or genuine or like it worked in any sense of the word. It was just Oh my god. So the summary of this one is a high-ranking general is captured at the end of a war and he braces himself for execution when at the last moment his life is spared by Chris, the enemy nation's master artificer, probably not saying that right, and puppeteer, and an arrogant, wickedly playful man who surrounds himself only with the dolls of his own making. And instead of execution, Chris has more dastardly, honestly, plans in store for this general. He's going to use his soul to create a new masterpiece. Dark, twisted premise. Sounds interesting, right? In my opinion, it just, it did not work. It was very boring. And I liked the art, and there was like this concept at the heart of it that could have been this really dark and twisted romance. And so because it felt so disappointingly boring, it just led to me feeling frustrated and annoyed. Just missed opportunities. I hate them. But yeah, it was convoluted as fuck, and the development felt forced and not at all genuine and just for the sake of the plot, and zero feelings of love did I feel from either of the characters, really. But if you want a much better done romance BL one-shot that has fantasy elements in it, I would urge you to check out either The God and His Flightless Messenger. Editing Zoe here to add The Snake Who Loved a Sparrow. And then the other one that is a bit darker in tone that I actually just recently read on the Hoopla app, but I think this one I will buy in print, was Bite Marks and Fluorite. So this one is a vampire one, so depending on if you don't like vampires or not, I guess, you might not want to pick it up. But I just thought it was a pretty like succinct, easy, like dark tinged romance that has lots of steamy moments. Yeah, I enjoy both of these fantasy series. I think they're both really like fun fantasy type one-shots. So yeah, we got part 2, the annoyed me category. Oh my god, it annoyed me so much. Sorry, I cannot. Being bored is one thing, but being annoyed is just a whole nother level. So yeah. First up, we are continuing on the BL train of shittery, in my opinion, with Eiji and Shiro from Zeros to Heroes. So I didn't realize that this was a BL short story collection. I thought it was just about Eiji and Shiro when I picked it up. And honestly, that first story about them was fine. It was a little goofy, a little silly, harmless enough. Had an okay time with it. Moved on to the second one. I could not tell you what it was about, to be quite frank with you. Where I have the major issues is the third installment in this one. It annoyed the ever-living shit out of me. Because I tried to be that bitch that says, hey, guys, it's fiction. It's okay. But sometimes in fiction, things are not okay. They just rub me the wrong way. They feel frankly disturbing and disgusting, and I'm not okay with it. And even though I can sit back here and just say, it's fiction, whatever, it annoyed me too much. It annoyed me to my core. So yeah, I am going to spoil the third story. So if you don't want to be spoiled on the third story, skip to here where I recommend you other reads. But if you don't care, you're curious, or maybe want kind of a trigger warning for this short story collection, because I do think that the subject matter can be a little triggering, or at least disgusting to me. then yeah, let's get into it. So I've said before on this channel, age gaps are more of a hit and miss trope for me. I don't always enjoy them or really feel the romance aspect of it, and sometimes it feels creepy, especially when it involves a teacher. Every so often it's done well. Sometimes like the kid will graduate and then come back. Sometimes like Gal Gahan, it feels very wholesome until she graduates. But again, it's teetering on that line of not being okay. But again, I will say it's fiction, you know. But this one was about a teacher reaching out to a very troubled, mentally ill student. And in my humble opinion, taking full advantage of them to have a sexual relationship with them because they are in desperate need of love and feeling wanting to feel worthwhile and stuff, and they freaking take advantage. They are an adult. This is a child. It's disgusting to me, okay, quite frankly. I'm sorry. I cannot be serious with you. It is quite frankly disgusting, and I am not okay with it, and I just don't like the way it's done. I don't like the way it's handled. I don't like anything about it. It's gross, okay? It feels gross and wrong, and even though it's fiction, it just annoyed me. So yeah, that's why that one annoyed me. And seriously, like if you want to check out a BL from the publisher Kuma, which is what AG and Shiro Zeros to Heroes is who they're published by, then please check out my absolute favorite Kuma manga release, and that is Torano-kun and Kumazaki-kun. This one is so good. I was living for this relationship. It is steamy, it is saucy, it is adorable, and it's just two high school students. One's like class pres type and one's like delinquent type, and it's so cute and wholesome, and but also smutty as hell. But yeah, it's really good. But if you do want a short story collection of BL, there is another one by Kuma, Melting Lover. I don't think this is a perfect one-shot or short story collection, but it is not egregious to me like the other. It is interesting. Like, not all the short stories hit for me. They're very weird and surreal at times, but they're all interesting. They sometimes have fantasy elements to them. They were overall enjoyable and just a different kind of manga read. So yeah, either of those would be better than this one. Let's move on to a different manga that annoyed me. A one-shot called Hard-Boiled Stories from the Cat Bar. This one I also read for the one-shot video and talked about in that video, so I'm not going to go too in-depth about it. I really liked that it was kind of this interesting mystery paired with a dark noir type atmosphere and setting and vibe to it, which I never see much in manga. Only in like old style movies or movies trying to replicate that feeling anyway. So it was really seemed different and refreshing to me, and it also had cats, and that doesn't hurt. So yeah, this one annoyed me because it had potential. Like, I could see where this could work. I think they kind of bit off more than they could chew, in the sense that like there was a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces in this mystery, and it was kind of hard to follow, and that was annoying. I almost feel like the whole cat aspect was kind of like whatever, like I get it, but it didn't genuinely add anything to me, except for like that's one of the reasons that the hitman has trouble carrying out his hit, is because he finds out that his target this time is a cat lover and he just lost his cat. So there's like this connection, I guess, or like reticence of his to yeah. But other than that, it just felt so very whatever. Like, it was a whatever mystery. It was kind of predictable. It was kind of just whatever, and hard to follow. And while I liked the art, the characters weren't drawn in distinct ways, so it's kind of hard to follow who the characters were. I have a lot of nitpicky issues with this one. So yeah, you can go check out the video for all my more like fresh thoughts on it and stuff, because I made that right after I read the damn thing. If you want an actually good and intriguing dark mystery, then I would suggest checking out Nijigahara Holograph. I actually want to reread that and forgot about it, and might have gone in my one-shots that I recommend for spooky season, because I remember really loving it. It had a dark and interesting premise, and it's got this mystery at its core. Again, I haven't read it in a while, but I really enjoyed it when I read it, and yeah, I think it's a one-shot to check out instead of this one if you want a good mystery. At least from what I remember, it was a good mystery. So last of the one-shots, and this one I do also talk about in a Yuri review video where I like read a whole bunch of Yuri, and the weakest one of the ones I read in that one by far was Mushroom Girls. Oh my god. Luckily, my lovely friend just gave it to me for free. I didn't have to spend and waste my hard-earned money on this one. However, I still wish he hadn't bothered. He did warn me he didn't enjoy it and didn't think it was that good, but the cover made me think, oh, maybe he's just being harsh on it. No, he was not. It annoyed me to no end. It had a really interesting fantasy premise, which I always like in my, romances, but this one had no romance. It annoyed the shit out of me that it created such an interesting world and yet didn't follow through on the actual romance aspect. And instead, you just get an interesting concept that isn't fleshed out at all, a romance that isn't fleshed out at all. And it is so infuriating. Their romance begins literally like on their wedding day, so that already felt very off-putting because you didn't really see any romance building. But I've had ones I like where it starts with them already going out or getting married or fake married or dating or whatever. So I was still thinking they would express in some way why these two girls loved each other and would showcase in ways their romance and their relationship. But instead, it didn't. It wasted a lot of time on side quests and adding unnecessary side characters to an already very thin one-shot. Boggles my mind. Maybe if it had been twice the size, they could have done the plot, more plot-heavy, interesting world with the romance, but they sacrificed the romance for not even an interesting plot. So yeah, the romance nor the plot really popped for me. Either just the background was all the kudos I can give to this one. This recommendation for this one is hard. I have been reading more Yuri, evidenced by my video, but I couldn't think of a Yuri that was a one-shot with fantasy that I could recommend. So, if you want a one-shot that doesn't have fantasy, but I thought was really cute, I just recently actually read Handsome Girl and the Sheltered Girl, and I just thought it was really soft. Art is really cute, and though the premise is based on a girl thinking the other one is actually a guy instead of a girl, and them going along with it for way too long, way longer than they should have, I think it's handled really cutely. Altogether, I wasn't annoyed with how it played out, and I thought they were a likable duo. They actually went on dates and had a relationship. Crazy in a Yuri to actually focus on the romance. But yeah, that one doesn't have any fantasy though. And yeah, so the last two are actually first volumes. Overall, I I mean, for the amount of first volumes that I feel like I've read this year, or, well, I read a lot every year, but just for this year, and only really disliking 2 of them, that's not bad odds, I have to say. Honestly, I'm nervous about making this because I still have some first volumes to read, but I'm hopeful that these will be the only 2 disappointing and infuriating and unliked first volumes by me anyway. So yeah. First up is Whoever Steals This Book. I love a good concept that is centered around literature, books, libraries, anything like that. I mean, usually piques my interest. And so this one, where a girl descended from a long line of book collectors that's amassed this huge collection and that is in this town full of avid readers, and this one high schooler like basically despises reading. I thought it was an interesting premise. And I also liked that when one of these books in her great-grandfather's collection at library has been stolen, to break the curse that has been enacted because of the theft of the book, she has to venture into the story with the mysterious Mashiro, who appears to help her, who appears to be a random high schooler and curiously knows a lot more than our protagonist Mifuyu seems to know about what's going on, and helps her navigate through the fantasy world that has become reality from the book in order to find the thief and break the curse. And it was just not good. Like, I was reading this going, why is it so janky and it just doesn't feel like a story? Like, it felt like it was a lot of interesting concepts very loosely connected to each other and all just tossed onto the page haphazardly. I mean, I didn't understand the whole thief thing because then it happens again. Didn't they catch the thief? Did they have like a thief problem? What the fuck was that about? It was not explained very well, nor was like the thief really explained outside of the fantasy world. And Mashiro, the mysterious high schooler, whatever, I thought, like, based on the cover, honestly, this was kind of going to be like a Yuri, but I don't think she's like a real girl. I don't really know what she is, honestly. And I don't really care. Mifuyu is, quite frankly, a little bitch. Like, I don't like her. Like, I understand I love books, so book haters kind of like down on the totem pole, but I thought, you know, she'd have a reason for hating books. I didn't feel any reason. I didn't feel any real interesting character from her. Like, no personality or qualities or traits or anything. These people just annoyed me. This book annoyed me. It was so disjointed and so unappetizing. Sound like I'm eating it, but like, you know, like, I just want to be like immersed into the world, and this had such a rich idea for a world to be immersed into. I did not feel immersed at all at one point. No, just confusion and annoyance. Those are my main feelings. But yeah, if you love books and stories that focus on books and libraries and, you know, the love of books, then I highly suggest you check out Magus of the Library. That has stunning art and an actually really interesting story and world building, and it doesn't feel all over the place and like, what the fuck did I just read? At least to me. It's very heartwarming and adorable and mysterious and awe-inspiring. It's just, it's such a good one. Underrated. Definitely recommend you spend your time and your money reading this one. than this one. That's just me. All right, we have made it to the last annoying entry into this video. And that is one that quite frankly seemed tailor-made for me, but was such a disappointment. And that is, my sister took my fiance, and now I'm being courted by the beastly prince. So first of all, I hear beastly prince and I think, you know, the typical beastly, like, he's gonna be a little cold, little standoffish, maybe like a little wicked temper or something, such a beast. No, that's not what it is at all. He literally can turn into a beast. Okay, misleading. It's fine. That's on me. But, oh boy. So I will give you a recommendation in a moment that is basically word for word the same thing, but done so much better. This one I can basically find a one-to-one comparison and recommendation for. But yeah, so Cordelia can't seem to get married because her little bitch of a sister, Priscilla, keeps stealing the hearts of the men that would have been her suitors. So she's just like, okay, guess I'll be a spinster then, and just basically like whatever about it when a suitor comes out of nowhere and happens to be the prince, who possesses the power of a legendary lion. Get it? Beastly prince. Oh my god. And is just has been drawn to her scent, because that's how I want my romance to be. Sorry, it made me think of Sweat and Soap for a bit too. I didn't like that one either. I'm sorry. I know like people like it. I didn't. It was weird, but in like a weird kinky way that I wasn't a fan of. Whereas this one was just stupid. Like, if you enjoyed it, I'm glad, because most of these ones are very vapid, surface level, similar types of stories, and I can just fall into them and I enjoy them for what they are. But this one annoyed the shit out of me. Cordelia is such a pushover, boring, pansy ass. Pansy ass bitch. Pansy ass. I can't think of another adjective. I don't want to call all these people bitches, but like, she is so uninteresting. Like, winner of the most uninteresting, boring character award that I did read this year. Just, oh my god, so very nothing. Like, no personality whatsoever. At least her bitchy little sister Priscilla has a personality. It may be just being a man stealer, but it's something. I mean, the fact that the prince is only interested in her because of her smell. Like, just take a second to think about that. She has nothing redeeming or interesting that captures the prince's attention. It's her stinking stink. It's her stinking stink. It's the way she gosh darn smells. Like, what? It was so annoying. And the prince was as boring as can be too. As like nice and mundane as anything. Like, so very uninspired, so very uninteresting. It was so boring, again, that it annoyed me, but in a way more aggressive way than the other one, where that like mostly boredom with some annoyance. This is mostly annoyance because of how stupid it was. I can probably name like 15 like this, but the one that's most closely similar, setup wise the same, is In Another World, My Sister Stole My Name. Gosh darn, that was a wonderful first volume setup. It has the treachery of the sister, which actually plays a much more pivotal and impactful role to the sister, who has had her name and identity essentially stolen in this fantasy world that her sister had been sucked into about a year before she ends up being sucked into it. This magical world on the other side of a mirror. So there's fantasy aspects to this one as well. just like that one, but done in a way that's actually integrated from the very beginning. The sister is kind of pretty just as much of a conniving bitch as Priscilla. She literally steals her identity. Actually, she's even more of a badass bitch because she steals her whole ass identity, not just her love interest, and passes herself off as her sister so that when her sister does get sucked into this realm, she makes her sister basically agree to switch identities with her. And because the sister is new to this world and sees her sister has some leverage and she's confused at the jump, she kind of just decides to go along with it because she's not sure what's going on and why she did this and if anyone would even believe her. So it makes sense logically. And the main character, the sister whose name has been stolen, actually like feels some way about it. Like she's still nice. Like she's not attacking the sister. She like I said, she goes along with it because of these reasons. But it makes sense. It's logical. And at the same time, inside, emotionally, she's very confused and distraught and uncertain why her sister would do this and wants to talk to her sister, but her sister is ignoring her. And so there's actual emotion and feeling about the things that are happening to her. So she's not, you know, aggressive or whatever character. She's also a pretty mild-mannered protagonist, but she has a personality that is literally the bare minimum. That is all I'm asking for. So yeah, if that didn't persuade you to check that one out rather than that one, I don't know what will. But I really like this first volume. I cannot wait for the second volume. It was very interesting and I was afraid to pick it up because of this one that I had already picked up and hated. Luckily, I could get over my trauma because of this title. Oh my god, it's not that deep. I am so weird about it. But seriously, it just, you know, when those certain volumes just annoy you to your core? That was what this one was. But I'd love to hear from you all. What are some manga that have annoyed you to your core? I'm very curious to hear your worst reads of 2024 or just your worst reads in general. Honestly, like just give me it all. Shit talk in the comments below about the worst manga you've read. I cannot wait. Thanks again for watching. I know it's another longer video, but I appreciate it. And as always, if you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. My goal feels like it's definitely unreachable at this point, but I would still appreciate anyone who does subscribe to the channel. And of course, to everyone who already has. So yeah, that'll do it for this video. Until next time, bye!